Okay. Welcome, everyone. I'm Melissa Ewing, and I manage outreach and events for the department, and we're grateful that you are here. We have an exciting panel today. This is our first event of the year, and I hope it's okay or I record this. We also have a captioner who is captioning this event, and I'm going to introduce now our moderator, Curtis, who works for the College of Engineering in the Career Center. And Curtis will take it away from here. Wait 1 second. I just wanted to say, put your questions in the chat and I will be feeding Curtis the questions. So welcome. And here you go, Curtis.
Thanks, Karen. Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to this fantastic panel. We were just saying earlier, I wish I had this when I was doing my school work in college work, knowing what to expect in interviews as we get out into that real world. So again, I'm Curtis. I work in our career center here at, I'm located in Low Hall, room 301. So definitely stop by and visit. The Career Center, it's shameless plug right now. We help you with all things on that transition from college into career, from resumes to interview skills and all the likes on there for jobs and internships, all that good stuff. So with that, just want to jump right into it and introduce or actually have our panelists introduce themselves. So we'll start with, and again, if you have any questions, throw them into the chat and Melissa will monitor that and let us know, make sure that we get everything answered for you. So with that, let's start with Neiha. Neiha Aurora is a recruiting director for Blink. So I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Neiha Arora. I'm the recruiting director here at Blink, local in Seattle. So I, at some point, must have talked to some of you, reached out, or you must have reached out. So it's really exciting to see some familiar names, but really excited to be here with the rest of the panelists and give you some interview tips and tricks. And yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks. And next up we have Nafisa Bhojawala, and she is the head of UX. What a great person to have on our panel for Google, the Google Cloud Platform. So hey, we're excited to have you.
Hi, everyone. I don't head up all of Google Cloud UX. I head up one of the teams, compute team, which is part of the Google Cloud Platform. So we design solutions for developers and IT professionals on Google Cloud Platform. I've been at Google just over 2 years. And before that, I was at Microsoft in the Cloud and AI division, leading up some products over there. So happy to be here and looking forward to the panel.
Right, thanks. And next we have Stefania Gueorguieva, and she is a UX designer at a little software company over on the east side called Microsoft. So Melissa, or not Melissa, Stephanie, you're up.
Hi, everyone. I'm super excited to be here. As Curtis mentioned, I'm a UX designer at Microsoft, and I work on Azure Active Directory on the identity team, helping business to business collaboration and making sure everything is secure when employees want to sign in.
All right, and then our last panelist, not least panelist, we have Karen Neth. She is the Director of Recruiting, going to have some great insights tonight. Director of Recruiting for Wyze. Karen.
Thank you so much, Curtis. My name is Karen, and I am with Wyze. We're a startup company based here in Kirkland, Washington, so right across the 520. And we've been here. We've partnered with University of Washington and have quite a few Huskies at our company. So we've grown from just 10 people to 200, and a big part of our team here, we have 2 teams of UX designers, and so we look forward to continuing to partner and hire more folks from the program here. So thank you so much for having me.
Great, thanks, Karen. And so I'm going to start with Stephanie. Stephanie, you're one of our recent graduates from the HCDE program and all that. So I just want to know about, so you graduated, you went into your interviewing and your, job, looking for jobs, applying, you applied to Microsoft, they brought you in for the interviews and all that stuff. Kind of did that kind of turn out to what you kind of expected, or was it different?
Yeah, I think it did. The vendor process is a little bit different than the full-time review, but a usual interview at Microsoft would involve, the normal phone screen where you would probably chat with the hiring manager to learn a little bit more about the position. And after the phone screen, then you would be invited on campus or virtually for about a 45-minute portfolio presentation. And after that, we'll have like 15 minutes of questions and a couple of interviews with designers, PMs, and maybe even a researcher that you'll be working with in that position. So it's a little bit like a half-day process. For a vendor, it's a little bit shorter, but roughly the same idea.
Wow, so that's sounds like quite a process. And so Nafisa, you're working there in a larger company as well, larger corporation. So in your experience, is that kind of the same sort of experience out there at Google that someone can expect?
Yeah, I can speak to the full-time, on what we call on-sites, the full-time interview process. So the thing to know that about Google is that hiring at Google is for all of Google. So we use across Google, we use very consistent areas of focus that all candidates get probed for. The portfolio review, the design exercise, the research portfolio, all of the various subdisciplines in UX, the portfolio reviews. There's a very consistent rubric that we all follow across Google. So the thing that I noticed that's different about, so Stephanie talked about Microsoft, where I was for a while as well. The difference I have seen in Google is that it just takes a little bit more time because there's a process of team matching, which can take a while. But the good thing for the candidates is that, you can then talk to various hiring managers and then choose a team, hence the name team match, right? So it's a process of finding the right fit. Once a candidate is right for Google, is a fit for Google, the next, it's a two-way process. So you get to choose the team you want to join. So that, and all of that takes time. Google is also we are very conscious of making sure that the process is fair, it's humane to the candidate. There is a lot of thought into the process itself, the information that is shared through this process with the candidates. So you'll usually have a recruiting partner or someone who is constantly talking to you as you're going through the process of, applying, your phone screen, your preparing for your, and depending on which level you are and which subdiscipline of UX you're interviewing for, you might have a design exercise that could take a few days. Then you come on site, which of course is on site on GVC now on video chat. But through that, and then after that, it takes a while for the feedback to flow through and all of that. So from the candidate's perspective, it can feel like a long time, but know that you always have that partner and they're neutral. They're not assessing you. They're just there as a guide for you through the whole process. And then the hiring manager actually might or might not be on your on-site loop. Because again, you are being interviewed and assessed for all of Google, not for a particular team or a product area. So I think the process is two differences. Process is longer. You always have someone who is going to help you guide through the process. You're getting hired for Google. I think Microsoft has the same. You're getting hired for all of Microsoft, not just, so the assessment is for the company. So hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, that's great. And I'm going to circle back on something you said about really being that fit for Google, being fit for the team and all that. But yeah, I'm kind of going sort of down in size, if I want to say this right, in companies. So Neiha, works for Blink, maybe not as huge a company, I'm not sure, but with these processes, are you seeing about the same thing with your company? Length, expectations of what we can expect with a company like Blink?
Yeah, great question, Curtis. Our processes seem to go, they go a little faster because we are a consulting company. A lot of the work is based around client projects. We make sure that we're keeping our interview process consistent, whether we're interviewing researchers or designers, with consistent questions, an equitable process, having debriefs. We tend to move fairly quickly in our decision making because the work that, we have comes in really quickly, and, we need to make a hire fairly quickly. So it's a very high touch process for us. I'm all about the candidate experience, continually touching base with them, checking in temperature, see how they're feeling about the role, and checking in with our hiring managers as well. So, it truly is, I would say, looking at, of course, we have to make sure we're kind of looking at our cultural pillars and posing questions around that. We have various different competencies. We also want to look at some of the transferable skills that, the candidates can bring in. We all know that not everyone can check the boxes. So I think it is for the recruiting team to understand that really well, as we continue to work with the candidates. So.
All right, thanks for setting me up for another later question too. When you said transferable skills, we here in the Career Center are all big on those other types of skills, but we're going to get back to that. And but now we have a tendency when we apply to when we start throwing out our applications, we always look at the big companies out there, the Microsofts, the Boeings, the Googles, and such. Yet there are some great opportunities, one, to get into a company and to really develop the skills that we've learned with some of the smaller companies out there. And I say smaller companies because, Karen, you've been there on a company developing this company from like 10 employees up to 200 right now, and you're growing. So what's that experience going to be like for a student applying to your type of company? What's that interview experience going to be like?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Curtis. We have 4 stages of interview processes. And so primarily, we start off with a candidate connecting with a product designer, connecting with our recruiter and our recruiting team to go through, what Wyze is about, who we are, and, what our product design teams are, to kind of talk about more about our culture and looking at the culture fit. And then the second stage of the interview is usually a conversation with our hiring manager, someone on our interview team, which is usually another product designer or product design leader. And then the third stage of the interview process and the fourth stage are usually comboed in one. So it's usually what we call our final interview process, which is more around the portfolio. So it starts off with a presentation, and then the interview process follows with about 3 to 4 one-on-one interviews. And it's circled around problem solving, design, and culture fit, and what it is that the product designer is looking for. So we do a lot of problem solving here at Wyze, and we have 2 teams of product designers. We have e-commerce as well as product designers for our products.
Oh, very good. Thanks. And
Thank you.
Nafisa, I want to kind of circle back to you right now. There's kind of a hybrid off of Lily asked a really good question about this hiring process. I know you have one of the long processes out there. Does there seem to be a difference in that process for maybe somebody looking for an internship, maybe this summer, versus somebody looking just graduating, looking for full-time work? Is there much of a difference in that process, do you see?
Yes, what I outlined was for a full-time position. I can find out about internships. I actually have, I have not hired for interns, although other managers on my team have. I would imagine that process is shorter because it's for a very specific type of, time-bound engagement. And then I also see that people are asking about international hiring. So the general process is the same. So, you apply, or there's a referral that comes in, there's that first contact, and then the phone screen, and then the on-site. But there might be some differences based on which area you are, or which market you are interviewing in. So it could be like, fewer or more interviewers in the process of your on-site, or, small differences like that. But generally, Google tries very hard to keep the process very, consistent and fair. And like I mentioned, we use, shared rubric. So assessment and all of that is the same.
Okay, excellent. And is Blink about the same there as well, from like internship type interviews into or maybe full-time positions? And if you can also touch on that, yeah, great question about international students as well.
Yeah, I can get back to you on the internship process.
Okay.
Touching base with some of our hiring managers, but it does look a little different. It's a little bit more simplified since it's entry-level candidates coming in. For international students or just international applicants, I would say the process is the same. We make sure we always check in if they do require any sort of sponsorship, get that information ahead of time, share it with our HR team. We want to be proactive there, and we have supported a lot of students on, if they've been on their EAD or who will require H-1B in the long term. So these are conversations we have right in the beginning, as the recruiter does the phone screen, just making sure that, we'll be able to support them through the process.
Excellent. Now, Stephanie, I want to circle back to you kind of on, this initial process. So we're kind of hearing of all these different steps in the interview process. And it seems like, at least here in career, and this is actually probably a question for me, here in career, we usually say that, well, probably some of your first initial interviews are going to be that technical interview, the technical questions. And then maybe going into the behavioral type question type interview. Was that your experience there? Did you have to go through any some whiteboarding or a technical interview or anything like that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the portfolio review is the place where maybe people get more technical questions. Usually during a portfolio review, you show, I think, 2 to 3 projects and you talk through your thinking. So what's really important there is to kind of present your problem and how you solved it, but also mention why you've made the design decisions that you've made. Like, for example, why did you use a mind map or something like that? And how did that really impact the end like result? And that's really important to like note. So that's a little bit more technical, and that also allows you to have a conversation with the full design team. Usually during that review, you have all of the designers come in and kind of listen in and ask questions. Then you have your individual one-on-ones with different team members, sometimes PMs and sometimes researchers, the people that you'll be interacting with day to day, to see if you're a culture fit and see how you problem solve and really get deeper into your knowledge.
All right, thank you, thank you. I want to hang on that portfolio question now then, since you threw it out there. And yeah, the importance of that portfolio and supporting that portfolio. So I'll throw to, let's go back to Google real quick here on that portfolio. What's the importance of that portfolio and what we say about that?
Well, I think for UX positions, portfolio is really, really important. This is your basically a calling card, right? You said, this is what I do. This is the kind of work I do. This is the kind of designer, researcher, or writer I am. These are the kinds of problems I solve, and this is how I solve them. So hugely important. Another thing I would say with portfolio, don't think of it as a catalog of your work. Make sure there is a narrative through it, whether it's highlights your own evolution as a UXer, as a UX professional, or it's about, this is my approach to problem solving, or it's, I took, I think of it like a hero's journey. It came to me, it was a mess, nobody understood it, we went through this process, highlight your collaboration, defining the problem, breaking it down, solving it, and then finally getting to, an outcome, that had an impact on the customer. So think of it as like a narrative that you are putting out about yourself as you share your portfolio and as you, put it together as well.
Okay, that's fantastic. So I think I want to jump right into that narrative aspect. And like Karen, you're seeing a lot of different types of candidates coming in for different types of positions here. Yet in that narrative on, I have my technical skills, and where I'm really, really leading into this is, yeah, I have my technical skills, but I also have these non-technical, what we call the soft skills, the professional skills, however you want to label it. Let's kind of talk about that, because as Nafisa is saying that as I'm defending or talking about my portfolio, I'm also creating that narrative. Here was my approach to problem solving. Here's my approach to this. So Karen, can you start us off on talking about that importance of those soft skills and bringing that into your narrative?
Definitely, thank you. So part of it is the passion. I would say that the passion that people have for UX really drives into their portfolio. Some of the most successful interviewees have been people that have shown the passion that they have through their internships or through their projects and programs, through schooling, to be able to develop the work that they've done. And when they show the passion through their portfolio, they also are able to articulate more on the problem that they're trying to solve and how they were able to solve it, and to be able to provide. So I'd say it really starts off with your passion. Why did you choose to be a UX designer? Why are you choosing this versus research? Because the program is so broad. There's so many different ways. Once you become or go into human-centered design engineering, there's a lot of different opportunities. So hearing that passion, I think, really is the foundation of what you're going to see, and being able to create that narrative. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, that sounds, and Neiha is as a consulting company. So you're consulting with a number, so as I'm gathering this, you're consulting with a number of other companies too. So as we're bringing in these other skills, are you seeing some commonalities of what these companies are looking for, the passion that they want for working and doing the job for us? What are some of those things that you're seeing out there?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to just point out a couple of things. I think having the art of storytelling, when you're walking through your projects, kind of overarches a lot of points that, Nafisa and Karen and Stephanie mentioned. And also the problem solving and critical thinking skills. I mean, our clients are constantly looking out for that. So we want to make sure that we are assessing on that when it comes to portfolio and technical reviews. Definitely passion, but also like how can they continue to push the process and step outside of their comfort zone? Like that level of passion is what we're looking for. And then just how strong is their design thinking and how well do they understand the user-centered design process? It's not just about the outcome. The one question we do ask in the process, and even I ask right in the beginning as I'm doing some portfolio reviews, like tell me about a project that did not work out the way you wanted it to, and how did you manage that? A lot of students will share their favorite project, but a lot of them will not share some of the projects that did not go well. And I think that to me is it's that story that I'm looking for, which I can convey to my hiring managers and kind of highlight these skills. And we're, our teams on a day-to-day with our clients, we're problem solving, we're, going in there and making recommendations. So having strong consulting skills is going to be important. And if we see that's, an area that they need to ramp up in, especially if they're coming in as a junior designer, we will recognize that and we will pair them up with someone who can help them kind of be successful in that space and get them to where they need to be in the consulting space.
Yeah, I'm seeing that a lot, or even just looking at job postings, teamwork, collaboration seems to come up on like every posting out there. Then we get into some, we need problem solving and and such. So as we're thinking, like Stephanie, when you're preparing for your interviews, were you really thinking about all these things we've heard tonight, or what was kind of your prep like going into interviews, the storytelling and such?
Mm-hmm. I think preparing my portfolio really helped me to prepare for the portfolio review. And something that I was thinking about is, the challenges that I've encountered in a project. And as other speakers have mentioned, it's so important to talk about the times that things didn't go well and how you resolve that issue. Like what tools from your toolbox did you use? Why did you use like a certain method, how it impacted it? So that really helped me kind of prepare for that. Another challenge of storytelling is, being able to put these portfolio pieces and scrunch them into like 15-minute presentations. That was challenging. And what really helped me there was I relied on my community, my classmates and my friends. So I put together the presentation and I presented to them and I had them ask questions. And that's the wonderful thing about our community. We have so many researchers, designers on hand that can ask those deep questions. So I would start thinking about those gaps. And that also helped me talk about, the last slide of such a presentation, like what would you change or where are the holes? Like, how would you improve this? And what are the next steps? So I would say, like, as students, we have this wonderful, rich community. We should use it because that really helped me.
Excellent. And Simon out there, you are paying attention. You are reading my mind. There's kind of a technique that at least we use kind of in a word, generically here in our Career Center. And I'm throwing this out for all of our recruiters out here. It's called the STAR method. And what I tell our, so STAR stands for, what's the situation that you were in? What were the tasks that you were assigned? What are the actions that you took? And then through this project, what were the results? And I tell a lot of our students, well, think of your projects or your experiences, and let's come up with 4 or 5 stories that we can fall back on and think about it with this STAR method. What was the situation, the tasks, the actions you took, what were the results? So now I have 3 or 4 or 5 of these little stories in my back pocket. So when I'm asked that behavioral question, tell me about a time when you worked on a team to solve the problem, or tell me about a time when you had a cranky team member, or tell me about a time when, that I have a story that I can pull out. And if I have to regurgitate that story maybe a couple times during the interview, at least I'm bringing up different, pulling up the volume on different aspects of that. Does that seem to be a good way to help us prepare? Let's start with maybe Nafisa in Google. When you hear these stories in interviews, does that seem to make sense?
Yeah, that sounds like a really useful framework. Thanks for sharing that. I wasn't aware of it.
Yeah.
But no, I think that's great because, problem solving doesn't happen in isolation of the situation, and it could be about a timeline, it could be about team composition, it could be many different things. And then talking about what did you do about it, and then what was the result of it, how did you land some impact. It's I think a very, very good way to prepare for not just for your portfolio, even for your interviews, because that gives you a chance and an opening to highlight some of those soft skills that we've been discussing, like collaboration or learning. I am really big on the growth mindset, because our work and our world in general is so complex that you cannot know everything in advance, and as designers and researchers, we are often thrust into new problem spaces. I mean, that's the exciting part about what we do, right? Being in technology is that, what you're looking at right now was maybe a vague idea in someone's head, just even last year, right? So how do you learn in new situations? How do you learn with a team? So I love that situation piece, and then the task, the action, and results. And I would say, just take it all the way through, right? Think through every situation and take it all the way through to what happened. What did I do? What did I do individually? What did I do with others? And what results was I able to achieve with that?
Oh, thanks. And so growth mindset. Okay, that's a key phrase that we all need to take away. Write that down, everybody. But Neiha, so on this, preparation, the storytelling, and all that. What are your experiences out there?
Certainly following the STAR framework is definitely recommended. We are an evidence-driven research and design company. So for us to understand outcomes is very important, whether those outcomes are data-centric or not, or, what would you do differently, whether it's related to a project or like a collaboration, like problem solving project. So having some sort of an outcome, some sort of like data supporting that outcome. If there was no data available, sharing that story, what would you do to go back and work on that project, and what would you do differently? So yeah, I mean, just thinking out loud, it's not, you don't have to follow the STAR process, but it's always recommended, because that again ties into that storytelling aspect, to keep it organic, have a great flow, Sometimes I feel when we follow a STAR process, we tend to get a little robotic in our speech, like especially going through a portfolio. But I think just practicing it with your friends, do not practice it the night before your interview. Do not do that. Take some time to practice, STAR related behavioral questions. And it's just practice makes perfect. So yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, don't wait till the last. Well, I don't know how many appointments I've had with students saying that, oh, well, I want to practice my interviewing because I have one tomorrow morning. So like, oh, now, Karen, on this, on this theme of that storytelling, and because you're hearing a lot of people, a lot of different people in your interviews and all that. So I would imagine, confirm or deny, but I would imagine the people who are conveying these stories, so you can actually visualize them on the work, does that seem to make more of an impact to you as you go through a number of candidates?
So I want to touch on the interview practice really quick. I definitely recommend whiteboarding. I know all of the interviews right now are all virtual anyhow, but one of the things that I had shared before that people have shared that have worked is being able to practice like on a Jamboard or on some type of process flow with people. So that way, or even, if you want to get on a whiteboard, because I think physically going on to a whiteboard and actually whiteboarding out and drawing out kind of, what the process is, or kind of going through any type of design session really helps be able to kind of think about what the problem is and what you're trying to solve and putting everything in place. And it helps with the interview process itself, because I think that once it ties back into the storytelling and being able to create the framework to be able to answer the STAR method and to be able to design everything out. Some of those sometimes when you're put on the spot, if you don't practice some of those things, that's where I see some people get stuck.
Excellent, excellent points and excellent advice. Well, everyone is throwing up some great things. Wish I had known this earlier in life in interviewing and all. And so kind of my last kind of round of questions gets into that question, those questions that you all are asking in this. And I want to kind of throw out something at Stephanie, throw you on the spot here. If you can remember your arduous journey through this interview process, was there a question in there that kind of hung you up? Oh, what?
I think it's really important to practice the behavioral questions. I think those can, if you haven't thought through those, they can throw you through a loop. So something that I did was I kind of Googled different behavioral questions, and I tried to either find ones that are design related or kind of throw a design spin on them and bullet point a few answers that I have. So I actually had like in my mind 3 or 4 projects that I could plug into whatever question, and that really helped me. But that was just through trial and error, like through interview practices and getting, questions like that thrown at me and me kind of blanking. So it really helps to prepare. Like those are really important, and it's important to make to the connection to something that you've, a lived experience if you can.
Excellent. And so just briefly, I'll start with Nafisa. Yeah, what are some of the kind of key, either a technical or behavioral question that you're asking that's like, I need a key, this is one of the key answers that I'm looking for. Like Nafisa, what's one of those questions or something that you're looking for in a candidate?
Google has phased out puzzles and stuff, which I am really thankful for, because first of all, I'm not good at them, and then I don't think they actually give you that much of insight into a candidate. I think what I'm really looking for in some of those behavioral questions is, authenticity. I really want to know, how would you approach a situation? There is no real canned answer. I'm trying to figure out, are you a thoughtful person? And it's just fine to say, yeah, I have not encountered that. But here's something else, that happened, and then share something that, was a situation in a similar vein, whether if the question was about, um, uh, a conflict or something that was headed towards failure, and did you see it? How did you deal with it? Those kind of things. There is no need to manufacture stuff that you haven't, right? Of course people won't, but sometimes it feels like you're on the spot and you feel like, oh, I have to answer something, and I mean, the interviewer is also a human being. They're just trying to understand, how would you approach a situation. It's not like an interview is not like a minefield that you should be, and the person is not your adversary, right? They're just trying to get to know you better. In fact, I always feel like it's important to remember that it's a two-way situation. If you have a bad experience, you're going to say, oh, I don't want to work for Nafisa. She was just, this interviewer was such a jerk. I don't want to work for this company, even worse, right? So, and, hiring managers, recruiters, all of us know that, we want good talent, to come and join us. So it's a two-way street, folks, you shouldn't feel like you're on a spot. Just be authentic, just, be thoughtful. It's also just fine to say, let me take a minute to think about this. That's a perfectly fine answer. And then do take your time. And if you want to turn off the camera, do that. I've had candidates turn off the camera for a little bit, take some notes down. Let me collect my thoughts here. This is a really good question. Often senior people will do that, and I always tell everyone I mentor, it's open to everyone. You don't have to feel like you're on the spot. You're a human being. You're a thoughtful person. You need to think through something. So that would be my advice.
Excellent, excellent. Neiha, what about your thoughts on this? Like some of the maybe questions you might ask to get some key things, or what are you looking for in candidates coming in?
Yeah, I think the one thing the pandemic has really taught us is to, just regarding the interview process and all virtual, is to really kind of give each other like space, and just remember, to have fun. It's a, conversation. So just, I always keep reminding candidates that. But as far as any like behavioral questions, I don't have like this favorite behavioral question. But I think from a consulting company, and even as students, because we have so many different classes we're going to and juggling multiple projects, like I want to hear their headspace around, and our team wants to hear their headspace around how do they juggle multiple priorities, and was there a time they weren't able to do that, and how were they able to pick things back up. And so, I think that is for everybody, not just, our students who are just graduating, to understand, how they think around that. And then, just for more technical questions, like you really want to hear your design process, that design thinking process, and how you're articulating and storytelling and sharing the outcomes, and in a very genuine way, and connecting. That connection part is very important. It is a two-way street. And come with questions. When I talk to candidates, I'm like, make sure to think of questions to ask your interviewers. And there's some that have those questions and there's some don't. I also offer, let me know if you need like 15 minutes to just set up some time to speak with me prior to the interview. Here's my recommendation. If a recruiter is saying that, take up that opportunity. So whatever, we want to give you the tools at Blink to help prep you and be successful in those interviews. And I would say take advantage of it. Anywhere you're interviewing, we want, you will be successful if there are tools that are being offered to you prior to your interview. So yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Karen, your thoughts?
echoing what everyone has shared, and would also like to share those. Always carve out some time to do a little research on the company that you're interviewing, having the interview with, and it's part of the preparation that was talked about earlier. But definitely, sometimes some of the questions that we ask revolve around, what do you know about our company, or what have you heard? And sometimes it's always nice to hear. It's always nice to hear that people have done their research, they know what we're about, and have an idea of where this opportunity could go. So doing the research is always good to add.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Melissa, I know we've got some questions coming in. I'm going to throw out one of these questions because I saw a +1 on something. How do you suggest to any one of you, one person one, how do you suggest to handle the NDA projects during the interview? Any thoughts from anyone? And I mean, yeah, I think you have to just find other projects that you can disclose about. If you've had an internship where you aren't supposed to disclose anything, you can't during an interview. So try to find. Yeah, Neiha, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I have come across a few candidates that either tell me they can't show their projects right when they're doing a recruiter screen. They can only show it in the interview process. A lot of them have kind of X'd out some of the NDA and confidential stuff in their portfolio, in their projects. A lot of them might have replicated another project, but not showing, obviously the confidential work. So, I mean, there are different ways. You obviously want to get, approval from the employer. Very, very important. But we make sure to ask that when, we're interviewing candidates. So.
Excellent, thank you. Oh, so Melissa, I'm really not paying attention to the chat. I'm just.
All right, I can chime in.
So, yeah.
There have been several questions about the differences between UX researcher versus designer interviews. And I don't know if everybody, I mean, I guess Google, Microsoft, Blink,
Yeah,
I don't know if Wyze
wants to take that.
Yeah, anybody just, yeah.
Yeah, wants to take that first. Go.
Yeah, I can jump in. Our UX research and design interviews are fairly similar. We've seen a lot of UX researchers have a portfolio, so we just make sure they're kind of covering their end-to-end UX research process. We, ask questions around their strengths, whether they fall more into the qualitative or quantitative research category. Are they more focused on usability testing? So I think it's a very similar process. It's, just walking through their UX research project end to end, and like really pointing out what their strengths are in, what are areas and opportunities that they want to grow in the research space. Just so you know, Blink is heavy on the qualitative side of research. We're continuing to develop our quant research. So we're always looking for researchers that have that mixed methods approach. So that's always going to stand out to us, if somebody comes in with both quant and qual. So.
Excellent, excellent. Nafisa, anything to add, or does that sound fine?
Yeah, I'll add a couple of things. I think for both, first of all, we want to see a range of skills, right? For designers, can you take something from problem definition, concepting through detailed design, the whole following the UCD process. Again, researchers' range of methods. Have you used different methods? Are you aware of them? Do you have experience with them? What's common is really strong user focus, storytelling, communication, impact and follow through, so just always talk about, what was the result of it? What did you make a customer or a client's life better because of what you did. So that's the communication and impact. And then there was a question about how to deal with, confidential information in design and research portfolios. So I would say, first of all, if you have a doubt about it, don't share. There are some ways you can write an abstract about the project, where you can say, you can talk about the general problem space without actually disclosing who the client was, or what the company was, or any of those identifiable details about an individual or a company or agency or whatever. Be very, very careful about that. I mean, at Google, we talk about it's one of the Google values is respecting the user. So know that the interviewers are looking for, if that's going to if you see that someone will actually might even point that out to you and might even probe you on how you deal with confidential information, because that's a key skill that we all need to have. But yeah, I mean, I think mostly, like Neha said, there's a strong common thread of user focus, communication, impact, all of those things across all UX subdisciplines, right? Not just design and research. There's writing, there's UX engineering, there's prototyping, motion design, visual design. The thing that you want to know, we're looking for is range. Are you trying to work outside your comfort zone? Are you pushing the boundaries? If you are trying to innovate something, innovate new methods, combining a couple of methods to get to a result, that's always interesting. I think Neha mentioned qual and quant. We see a lot of researchers doing both these days, as part of their toolkit. So if you're doing something like that, make sure to highlight it in your research portfolio. A lot of designers do prototyping, motion, visual in their work, so make sure to highlight that. So yeah, I hope that was helpful, Curtis. I think I kind of went around a little bit.
Hey, it's all really, really good. So Melissa, I'm just thinking one last question, a theme that you're seeing, and before we kind of wrap this puppy up.
Yeah, it has to do with not all companies do whiteboarding. So that seems to, I've seen a few questions about whiteboarding, and I just, maybe we could talk about that. I know, let's see. Well, I'm pretty sure Microsoft does whiteboarding, right, Stephanie? Did you have to do a whiteboard?
I personally did not, but I think some people do go through a whiteboarding exercise. I think the idea behind it is to see if you're like a team fit. You're supposed to, you do get this challenge and you do have this time, and it's important for you to for, I guess, the hiring manager or the designer in the room to see how you solve the problem. But, they're there to collaborate with you. You could bounce ideas off of them, and you can ask them more questions. So I feel like that's part of the culture fit, because that's the hiring manager's chance to kind of get to know you in a mini project way.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks. And conversely, I think Neha, I think Blink doesn't do whiteboarding, right? And Wyze, maybe you could comment after, Karen, maybe you could comment after Neha.
No, we really stick to our technical portfolio review, candidates walking us through 1 to 2 case studies of their projects. So very few cases, we'll have them do any whiteboard, but yeah, no, we don't do that.
Okay, Karen?
We did when we were in person. We haven't since, because whiteboarding is a little more difficult to do virtually. It was like what Stephanie said, it was more of a collaboration during the one-on-ones with some of our product designers on the team to be able to, they will throw out a problem to solve, and whether it be a design thought process or wireframing event, and they would basically work together as a team. And a lot of the feedback has been they have a lot of fun doing that when we did have them. So
okay. And Nafisa, Google, any comments about Google and whiteboarding?
Google interviews will have a problem solving section to it. So, and then it just depends on the interviewer. Sometimes people like to use a virtual whiteboard. Sometimes, I've had candidates like, sketch out something on paper and hold it up and walk me through it. We were all like innovating as we go through this pandemic, right? But there is problem solving. And so whether or not you use a whiteboard is dependent. Sometimes it's needed, sometimes not.
Excellent, excellent. So as we're kind of at our time now, so I'm going to have each of our panelists think of in 30 seconds, like that elevator speech, right? Your elevator pitch. But your 30-second last thing you want to leave with our group here. So Neiha, let's start with you.
Curtis, can you repeat that? What do you?
Yeah, kind of, a quick 30 seconds. What do you want to leave with everyone here?
Oh, yeah. Gosh, 30 seconds. I would say continue to practice your interview skills and your storytelling skills. I think, yeah, I would leave with that and just come in confident. Don't practice for your interview the night before. And if you do have time, and this is not 30 seconds, do write a cover letter, because we're always interested in reading that. So.
Excellent. And your Career Center can help you with that. Nafisa, what are your last thoughts?
I will actually repeat something that Karen brought up earlier, which is around passion. I would say, target the positions that actually get you interested. And even if you feel like you might not be a fit, it's always a good idea to try, because you won't know unless you try. So if you're passionate about cloud, which is where I work, and you feel like, oh, I'm not designed for technical audience, don't worry about it. If it's something that's of interest, do try it.
Yeah. Karen.
Be yourself.
Love
That's
it.
what I would leave with. Be yourself. Don't forget that, and have fun. And don't be afraid to build relationships along the way when you're interviewing. So.
Awesome. Awesome. Stephanie.
Wow, I love all the closing thoughts, +1 on all of them. One thing I wanted to mention is that the internships and jobs are at Microsoft are currently on a rolling basis, and they're open right now. My recruiter that I collaborated with on this, she wanted me to mention that. And so please go ahead and apply if you're interested. They're on a rolling basis, and I believe interviewing might start in October till February. So apply as fast as you can. And another thing is for students that have already graduated, Microsoft does offer this program to apply special applications for graduates that have finished or have graduated within that 1-year time period. So that's my little shameless plug. And yes, everything that everyone said, like practice, be passionate, try new things, and just, try to be confident.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, that Microsoft cycle is just before everyone else. So yeah, everyone jump on that. So again, and my last thing for everybody is your contribution is think about, what am I going to contribute to this company? What am I bringing? Think about that in that time, in that kind of mind frame. But I want to thank all of our panelists out here, Neiha, Nafisa, Stephanie, Karen, thank you so much for your insights. This everything you said, from my many years in career is spot on what we need. Thank you so very much. And I'll throw it back to you, Melissa. So thanks everyone for being here on our little webcast here.
Thanks everyone. Go and visit Curtis at the Career Center. And thank you so much to our panelists. Appreciate it. Bye. Have a great night.
Thank you.